Let's discuss now some more of the reactions that we've seen to the horrific assassination of Charlie Kirk. I went through a lot of my thoughts already and my disgust with anyone who is choosing to further inflame this politically violent moment for their own political interests. And yes, that comes in the form of prominent Republican figures, as does it come in the form of random people who are left-wing online who I think are saying horrible things. Luckily, people who are powerful in elected positions on the Democratic side are not saying similar things to the randos online. But now we do need to address something that Donald Trump Jr. said, and then we'll go through a lot of different examples that we've seen.
They realize they lost the debate entirely, so they have to resort to violence. And contrary to what we're seeing elsewhere and online, it is not going both ways. It is going one way. It's coming from those aligned with the Democrat Party. The hate has been fomented by those in the Democrat Party, and you can probably play hundreds of hours of those clips. It's coming from the media. Some of them are doing a quick course correction and probably scrub their social media feeds for all the things they've said about Charlie, myself, my father over the last few years. But you can't call someone who you disagree with or simply can't win an argument with a Nazi, a fascist, a dictator, a greatest threat to democracy in the history of civilization, and then pretend you had nothing to do with it when the more radical wing, and there does not seem to be all that much difference to me these days, takes up arms and tries to kill those they disagree with. It's not one way. It's not both ways. It is simply one way. And anyone who's saying otherwise, should be thrown off the air.
So it's clips like that just make me kind of want to give up and not just give up on these discussions because no one seems. And I do empathize. I know Donald Trump Jr. knew Charlie Kirk well, and that's absolutely heartbreaking. And like we talked about with his father, people with huge levels of influence have a responsibility not to lie and mislead, especially as we just witnessed a family lose a loved one in front of the world. And why would anyone choose to exploit that moment? Whether it's the stuff I find horrendous online, who people, I guess, on the left, or someone with the level of influence Donald Trump Jr. has. Why would you choose to exploit? And it just makes me, I've been really disoriented and sad trying to process stuff like that. So what am I saying? Some of this will be a repeat, but if we believe that our rhetoric has gotten too violent or too invoking of violence, then now that you're making that a bigger conversation about not just this abhorrent and heartbreaking instance of political violence, but he's saying a broader statement like his father did, which is that the bullets are only going one way, that this is only happening from the left to the right. And it's just strange. It's very strange and heartbreaking that people don't care to be honest, even amid tragedy, because that's obviously not true. In a lot of ways, I gave you in the other segment specific stories. Write a headline like this: Republican ex-candidate sentenced to 80 years in prison for shooting spree against 4 Democratic officials. Not to mention John Hoffman, his wife, Melissa Hortman, and her husband. Not to mention right-wing ideological mass shootings that have happened in recent memory. Meaning like the same day Evergreen High School shooter expressed neo-Nazi views online. That was the same day. And when I bring those up, I just keep saying this because I think that hopefully some people who are center right can unite with me on this. It's not to go, so who cares about Kirk's assassination? Or, well, it happens all the time, so what? No. Utterly heinous. And it deserves a lot of emphasis. And people are shifting into the what do we do now moment, and what's the political takeaway? And if you choose to enter into that part of the discourse with a dishonest framework, then you're not helping us. And I will just, again, it just is the mathematical case that right-wing ideological murders are more common. Doesn't minimize the tragedy of left-wing ideological murders, but it is. Right-wing extremists are doing it more commonly. That is just to say, wow, in the face of that, why would Donald Trump Jr. lie? Why would Trump lie? Why would all these different elect Republicans lie? Because if we don't do that, if the crazy people online who identify as left-wing and are celebrating this would come to their humanity, and if prominent Republicans and many people online who are right-wing would come to their humanity and their honesty, then man, what amazing things could we do to proceed and minimize political violence like this? But as long as people choose to just exploit anything for their political advantage, then we will not get to a better place. And that is why I appreciate all of the powerful and elected Democrats having a very clear message of opposition and optimism about how we could move forward in a less violent manner. Now, as this, what has become a big debate continues, this is Lewis Goodall, who I wasn't really familiar with before this, but who made some strong points on Piers Morgan's show.
Earlier in the year. Very similar sort of phenomenon. Yeah. But let's see where it's happened in other parts of the right. Do you remember what happened with Paul Pelosi, for example? Nancy Pelosi's husband almost killed to death. What was the reaction of not just some random left-wing accounts, not some teacher, not whatever, but Don Jr., Donald Trump Jr. He decided to put out a picture of a hammer and some underpants and say, I've got my Paul Pelosi Halloween costume tonight. This is the wider legitimization of violence that we're seeing. And let's just have a look. I mean,
and why can't we be completely opposed to that wherever it's coming from? I don't know. And then, I mean, people would link to, since Donald Trump Jr. was talking about the rhetoric, we saw in recent memory Democrats assassinated for being Democrats from a Trump supporter. Did Donald Trump Jr. say posts like this where he was using the term fascist Democrats, gone full fascist, etc., fascist lawfare? Was he saying he was to blame for the Democratic lawmakers being assassinated? So I do wish we could all lower the temperature. I really do. I do wish that our rhetoric wasn't so insane. But it's going to take more people than just me saying that. I'm going to need some of the influential Republicans to get on board as well. And then here's more from Lewis Goodall.
Why? Hold on. Why? Because she was unarmed and she was advancing to a halt. Please, I'm 100%
so
with you. I don't condone any violence, but the comparison is not even close to what the left does.
So let's have some statistics from your own government.
They promote it.
Let's have some statistics from your own government. These are your own government statistics. Now, I know you might not want to listen to the facts, but this is the facts. A study from the US government itself says that the majority of political violence in the United States occurs from the right, not the left, from the right. We have also seen in my own country what happened with the assassination of a Labour MP, Joe Cox. We saw what happened in Norway with Anders Behring Breivik. All violence on the right. I do not say, as you seem to say, sir, that one side or other is morally superior to the other. I do not say that there will not be political violence on one side or the other. What seems, and I find curious, is your belief, your fervour, that somehow one side of this debate is uniquely morally repugnant and one is superior. The statistics are wrong. That's not right. Doesn't support what you're saying. And the fact after fact after fact, and occasion after occasion after occasion shows the same thing. And like I say, January the 6th itself was literally...
And then it moves to that. Now, there's been a lot, and this is kind of the next part of the conversation, a lot of misinformation about the shooter. And many people that I respect, or thought that I did, have run with false narratives about this to serve their agenda. I don't see why people choose to do that. At least according to the Utah governor, Spencer Cox, who is a Republican, but has been kind of one of the spokespeople for the investigation, is saying that the shooter was, quote unquote, deeply indoctrinated with leftist ideology. The response from a lot of people on the left has been, well, he comes from a really pro-MAGA family, or, well, he was immersed in gun culture from a really young age. And that's true. Both those things are true. Or, well, there were these like in the shell casings, the stuff that was engraved was memes that we think are referencing super far right cultural references, and that maybe this was an attack because Charlie Kirk wasn't far right enough. And then people went from, could that be the case, to, oh, it's the case. We know for sure this is a Nick Fuentes fan or something. And it's been strange to see because that's not substantiated as of when I'm recording this video. And I think it's fair to assume that this person would have identified, or does identify, as opposed to Charlie Kirk's right-wing politics and thus kind of left-wing. And that can both be the case, and we can say this person is nowhere at all. This guy, Tyler Robinson, is nowhere in our movement because our movement rejects violent tactics for political aims. We don't have to lie about why he did this. We still don't know a lot of things, and that's true. But that, I'm telling you transparently, there's still a lot to know. He hasn't admitted exactly. The "Hey Fascist" catch was engraved on one of the bullets. That would make you think more left-wing than, if you read this, you're gay, LMAO. Typically, you'd be like, is that more right-wing? And then some meme references, gamer references that I don't really get. But I guess people are saying that makes them think he's more aligned in like a group world. But to assert things confidently in spite of the evidence, and right-wingers are doing this too. Like they started running with he's trans, or a trans engraving was on his bullet. Both those weren't true. So then after those two weren't true, then it became, and this is true, that his partner is trans. So now they're saying, see, it's trans violence. And it's like, wait, what? Because his partner, who's cooperating with the police, is trans? Okay, strange. But can everyone just be a little bit more tapped into what is true as opposed to what you want to be true or what you think is probably true? And while we're talking about political violence, I just came across this. Do you remember when Trump was at the golf course and Ryan Ruth was hiding in the bushes trying to kill him? Ryan Ruth, you might be able to imagine, not the most sane person.
And jury selection begins today in the trial of the man accused of trying to assassinate President Trump. Then candidate Trump was playing golf in Florida last year when Secret Service agents say they spotted the barrel of an assault-style rifle in the bushes about 400 yards away. Now the suspect has pleaded not guilty to 5 felony counts, including attempted assassination of a major presidential candidate. ABC News chief investigative correspondent Aaron Katursky's.
Get ready for this. Ryan Ruth is representing himself at trial, rejecting a defense attorney, and his requests in prison were a little bit strange.
Following that story for us. So, Aaron, it's interesting because this suspect is representing himself. How's that going so far?
Well, it's been weird because he's made a series of rather bizarre requests in pre-trial motions. He asked the judge for female strippers. He asked for a putting green to be put in his jail cell. And he asked for a round of golf with President Trump. And if Trump wins, Ryan Ruth says he can execute me. So we know that it said if you represent yourself, you have a fool for a client. The judge has warned him of the peril here, but he says he's aware, and the judge is going to let him do it.
So what are you watching for as this trial?
He seems to have his head on normally, head screwed on normally. Give me strippers in my prison cell, a putting green, and I'll play a game of golf, a round of golf with Trump. And if I win, if Trump wins, he gets to execute me. Seems very, okay. This was a good exchange between Bill Maher and Ben Shapiro that proves a lot of the points that I'm making here about how everyone does not seem to care about what's true, but just what works best wherever they are on the internet.
Either a white supremacist or a radical Muslim. If it is a shooting of a Republican politician, it is very likely to be a trans Antifa Marxist shooter.
That is just not
that
true. We don't know what this kid is.
We do know this kid was of the left. We do know that.
We do know what?
That this kid was of the political left. That is according to contemporaneous reporting from The Guardian as well as Tablet Magazine today.
It's 2 days out. We don't know shit, Ben.
But
we don't know shit. They never do. The internet is undefeated in getting it wrong to begin with.
It's not about the internet. That's about the actual reporting by mainstream accepted. The Guardian is not a right-wing.
Here's what we heard. Here's what I was told so far, and I'll tell you what was wrong. First, I heard he's a registered Republican. Not true. Okay. Then he was a donor to Trump. Not true. His father works in the sheriff's office. Not true. There was a picture of him wearing a pro-Trump shirt. Not true. Member of the Democratic Socialists of America. Not true. We don't know what he is.
Well,
how are you so sure he's of the left? Now, I agree when you write on a bullet, what did he write on the bullet?
Catch this fascist, which is also a gamer thing.
Okay, but now I'm hearing he may have been part of that group for whom Charlie Kirk was not right-wing enough.
You mean the Groypers, yes. I mean, so that would...
you're sure he's not that?
I'm not sure that he's not that.
A minute ago you were sure what he was.
Hold on, Bill. Hold on. Okay, because I've been...
You were.
Right. I mean, he did shift from I'm sure to I'm not sure, but that's just, I hate it so much. I hate this, what we do. You could just, hey, what if we just waited until we knew for sure? We're going to figure it out. Probably. The investigation will probably make very clear what the clear motive was. And we don't have to have a proclamation 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever, after. And whether the person was, at every Biden rally ever, which has anyone except for his staff. No, I'm kidding. I went to a Biden rally. Or was a Groyper. It doesn't change the problem. It's kind of the same. People are, whether it's online or through politics, being radicalized. And that doesn't mean that if the person happened to be on your side of that arbitrary line we draw, then your side must be inherently doing something wrong. There are fringe voices that can radicalize you in all different political directions. And that we need to oppose. And we need to stop allowing people to believe that gun violence or violence is the solution to those political issues. We can talk about the fascistic nature of this ideology and that ideology, or we think this candidate or this figure is deploying fascist tactics, while we can still engage in our normal political debates while being more clear on our opposition to political violence. It's very possible, trust me. And I'm so sick of seeing, yes, of course, the right running with misinformation, but also people on the left about this shooter. Confirmed, shooter's a huge Trump fan. Why do you need to go there? We don't yet know if it's like, and I think we're seeing more and more evidence, and I do think the Utah governor is probably making a well-informed statement about the leftist thing. And guess what? Hey, same take, bad. And the stats about the broader political violence in America remain the same, about it skewing in a right-wing direction, but there are cases of left-wing politically motivated violence. People act like their entire, which maybe is something wrong with how they're approaching politics, but their entire political foundation will be rocked if the facts of this case are one thing or another. That's a you problem, frankly. And then you have Elon Musk coming out and inflaming.
And then you see how much violence there's on the left, with our friend Charlie Kirk getting murdered in cold blood this week, and people on the left celebrating it openly. The left is the party of murder.
Right, so anyone celebrating it openly, terrible. Like, I guess I haven't really shown you enough examples, but I just don't think perpetuating it is good. But you see stuff like this, woo, yay, that's bad, terrible, repugnant, etc. But then to go, the left is the party, so now he's making it like the Democratic Party is the party of murder. It's not mathematically true. Potentially a leftist perpetuated murder or did assassinate somebody. Horrible. Fullest extent of the law punishment. How do we all continue to work, whether it's in the aftermath of a murder or not, to make sure our rhetoric is in the interest of a peaceful democratic dialogue? But the whole side is the murder people? Even when mathematically that's not the case? Do you not see how that makes you seem like someone who's perpetuating violence promotion? Because if I believed a group of people was the murder party, like they're having a murder party, then what would I be willing to do to those people? Very bad things. Why are people insane? It seems so obvious what our collective response would be, but no.
Benny, the bullets are only going one way in this country.
Yes.
Yes. No. What is even the point? Like, imagine, here we go. Imagine if when Melissa Hortman, John Hoffman, whenever this thing happened, the Republican candidate who had this murder, shooting spree, plot thing, whenever you see right-wing ideological mass shootings, what if I came out and said, the bullets are only flying in one direction? Like after the Trump assassination attempt or after this Charlie Kirk assassination? What if I said it's only happening in one direction after one of the examples of right-wing violence? Imagine how heartbroken you would feel that I was erasing Charlie Kirk's memory or the memory of the Trump supporter at Trump's rally who died or Trump being targeted. If I just completely wiped those stories out of my mind to perpetuate a political narrative. But that's what people are choosing to do. All right, let's look at some other relevant clips. Here is the Utah governor.
Friends that have confirmed that there was kind of that deep, dark internet, the Reddit culture, and these other dark places of the internet where this person was going deep, and you saw that on the casings. I think I didn't have any idea what those inscriptions, many of those inscriptions even meant, but they are certainly the memification that is happening in our society today.
Governor,
okay. Strange. But this is one of the things I referenced. I guess now it went from the shooter is trans and that wasn't the case, and then the bullets have trans engravement, that wasn't the case, and then now the suspects or the shooter suspect's lover is trans. And despite that person cooperating with the police, and according to the Utah governor having no awareness that this was happening, we're literally hearing this must have been a part of a trans terror cell from right-wingers. They feel no obligation to minimizing politically violent language like that. And just so you know, just to always keep contextualizing this, to keep everyone informed and safe, Melanie Dirigo, 98% of mass shooters are men, 57% are straight white men, only 0.11% are trans. So they're underrepresented, and you can look this up. They're not, trans folks aren't perpetuating violence at disproportionate rates to their segment of the population. So then ask yourself, if you're on the right wing, why do I keep hearing that? Must be a fear-mongering tactic. Now, if this shooter killed Charlie Kirk because of Kirk's trans views, and the shooter felt like he was defending his lover, then that would be relevant to the motive, and it would still be the same take, which is someone got radicalized and chose to use violence horrifically for some cause. But to start perpetuating before there's any evidence that there was, I don't even know what that means, a trans terror cell. Like, we hear about the Iranian cells. What do they call them? Terror cells, I think, in the United States that we hear about. That's what this is a part of with no evidence.
But the fact that the boyfriend slash roommate slash partner is, transitioning.
Sleeper cells. That's what I was thinking of. Iranian sleeper cells we'll hear about.
And the transgender movement just seems to be extremely problematic these days. And many of the mass shootings that we're seeing in this instance, it was the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
But it wasn't a trans person. So it's just, if you're at all involved with any trans person, then that is put on the tally list of trans violence. Doesn't seem right. Doesn't seem even helpful to keep people informed. Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, said this.
And President Trump, of course, reacted to the shooting last night and said this in part.
From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives.
I think it is dangerous when the president cherry picks which political violence he's going to condemn and which he's going to allow to just simply pass. I think we need to be universal in condemning all political violence. The president missed the mark last night in his...
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. It's not helpful to cherry pick what you approve of and what you don't. You got to be against it all. You really do. If you actually care about this problem.